What's up, everybody? Another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast. We're talking Clemson week, and we brought on friend of the show, Clemson alumni, ESPN ACC Network analyst, and all-around great guy, Eric Mac Lain, to come discuss the Tigers with us. We talk a little bit about Matt's stats, and we talk a little bit about the game before we dive in with Eric, and a lot more. So let's roll that intro and get things started.
Let's give them some flowers. I mean, that is a grade A #1 pit stop for a restroom. Like, if I got to take a dump, that's got to be number one.
Hello and welcome to another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast, brought to you on the State of Louisville Podcast Network. Get down there and beat that subscribe button, beat that like button, and go ahead and leave a comment too. Get us prepped up for the game. What do you want the people to comment, Matt?
Kennesaw State.
Just comment Kennesaw State.
I know that's random, but I've got Kennesaw State, Western Kentucky on my TV right now. That's the first thing I can think of.
I'll tell you what, get in the comments and leave your favorite road trip chain locations to stop, like Love's or Buc-ee's or Pilot or Flying J.
If there's a Buc-ee's, you got to stop. I'm loyal to 5-star. If there's a 5-star there, I will stop over any other gas station. just will.
No, Buc-ee's is king.
Yeah, no doubt.
I didn't realize until I made a road trip that was super early that Buc-ee's also does breakfast.
Oh, see, that's the only time I've been there is for the breakfast stuff.
Their breakfast is so good.
Yeah.
So good.
And how about those bathrooms, bro? I mean, if we're going to talk about Buc-ee's for a second, let's give them some flowers. I mean, that is a grade A #1 pit stop for a restroom. Like, if I got to take a dump, that's got to be number one.
That's the out of context clip right there. So I might be the lone person on this planet who has yet to go to a Buc-ee's, but you're leaving a sterling review because I haven't been to Buc-ee's though.
I'm pretty sure it's a truck stop. You can just go and stay.
No. All the places I go are just not in Buc-ee's locations.
That's what I'm saying. You can make Buc-ee's the location.
Now
you're just gonna go and stay at Buc-ee's.
Yeah. When I do have to drive back to Illinois, I appreciate the audacity of Buc-ee's because they bought out a billboard and they got both sides. And the side going towards Illinois is like, turn around and go 127 miles and there's a Buc-ee's. And I'm like, do I want to turn around and drive 2 hours to go? So
Buc-ee's is so good that you see that ludicrous billboard and for a split second you're like, do I want to do this?
So, title of the episode, Nucky If You Buc-ee's.
Right.
So, we got a fun show lined up for you today. As I mentioned in the pre-intro, friend of the program, Eric Mac Lain, coming on to join us to talk Clemson Tigers. But before we dive into that, there were a couple of things. We reached out to you, the listeners, because we wanted to know, are there any specific things you all wanted answered? And one of the first things, and honestly, I probably should have led with this because I think personally it's my fault. But there was a comment asking if we had an official comment on why we weren't the sexiest podcasters of 2024. Curse you, Travis and Jason Kelsey.
I mean, we didn't have a shot there to begin with.
I mean, my official stance is that it's because I'm bald, and Keith said it's because he doesn't have.
You said it, not me, Matt. I was thinking it, but you said
it. You know what I think? I think it's Jacob officially dragging the average height of our podcast to below a height that starts with 6. So
I'm Italian, so it's really just on all you guys. I don't know what more you want me to do.
Hey, I saw that perfectly coiffed boy band hair at the end of the last episode. It's definitely not you. So another very important question. Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle?
I've never seen Pokemon a day in my life.
You know what? But you know what it is, Vince. So pick one. You got to pick one.
Pikachu. No. I mean, I don't know
I
football.
respect the answer. I respect
Vince
I
and
didn't
my
watch
80
that stuff.
Vince and my 80-year-old grandma, and it's the same picture meme.
I mean, I could do Star Wars all day with the best of them, or Marvel stuff, but I gotta draw the line at animes.
Squirtle's the best answer, by the way. So let's actually get to a couple of questions talking about Louisville and Clemson. One of the first ones, Vince, I feel like you're going to be the only one who can appropriately answer as of right now. But Matt, maybe you can give us a return verdict on this. Where does Clemson rank in terms of game day atmospheres? Top 5? Top 10?
I've never been, but I know from experience of being on the team and having to prep for that, for guys and everything, and hearing firsthand experiences from that 2016 game that had the ending that it had. I mean, in the conference, it's one. There's no doubt about it. In the country, where it ranks up, probably top 5 if they're ranked high and rolling, which they are rolling right now. I mean, I expect a hell of a fucking atmosphere for a 7:30 kickoff, man. I mean,
yeah, that's going to be.
That place might move a metric scale.
Yeah, no, like you said, Keith, I've never been to Death Valley, but I am fixing that this weekend. And with it being a night game, I already know it is going to be a bonkers atmosphere. So from an experience standpoint, from like a college football bucket list, I guess, so to speak, it's going to be fun to at least see that part.
Yeah, I've heard people say that, like the guys on the team and from that 2016 game say that the conversation we're having right now that you could not even have because it was that loud on the stadium. Like a normal volume of voice that you would be talking to someone at, like, no, you had to literally yell at people.
So I'm curious how that's going to scale, which I initially had planned to make that trip. Then my loving wife decided to make a trip to Japan, and she is returning this weekend. So
Nice.
I figure probably going to make the smart husband play and stay home, watch the game with my wife, who I haven't seen for multiple weeks. So
there you go.
That trip got canceled for me. But I'm curious because you were at the Notre Dame game as well, right, Matt?
Mm-hmm. I was.
Remind me, I'm looking forward to a comparison of the two because I was blown away at Notre Dame. I thought that was a fantastic atmosphere.
Oh, as far as the atmosphere goes, yeah, Notre Dame is definitely up there. As far as the, I guess, loudness of it, it wasn't as loud as I thought it was going to be. But in terms of like the game day atmosphere and aesthetic and whatnot, oh, it was fantastic.
See, I think this will blow Notre Dame out of the water. I mean, something about that place, and I partially think it's on the student body as well. Like something about having a bunch of just 18 to 27-year-old college kids just going absolutely nuts in that stadium with the mix of, fans that have been fans for generations of people. Like it makes for a very unique, I don't know, it just smells and screams college football to me.
It's college town. Yeah. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're actually starting to dive into a couple more of like the football questions. And one of the first ones, can our offensive line hold up against Clemson's D-line? And this is one of my big worries coming into this game is just can our offensive line, which is already really banged up. I don't know if we've gotten an official injury update. So we've got the Big J journalist on. You might be able to answer any update on if Collins is going to be back good to go, or I know the staff isn't exactly forthcoming with injury news, so
that's why I'm shaking my head no. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to assume until he actually gets back fully dressed that Austin Collins might not play. But I mean, Monroe Mills is back, so that's fantastic news. Going up and having a guy like we already talked to EMAC, and he had said about having Peter Wood switch from 3 tech to D end. I mean, getting Monroe Mills back in time just to single-handedly face him is a massive development. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Even with the banged up offensive line, Clemson's defensive line, while still very good, is probably not the same Clemson D-line as we've said in the past. Because, like EMAC said, they're kind of thin in the middle and had to kind of spread the wealth a little bit, or thin on the edge. Excuse me. That's why Peter Woods made the switch. So it's definitely not the strongest D line from Clemson they face, but it's still going to present a problem.
I'm going to say you're going to have to get creative up front with how you're blocking guys like that. I mean, we've seen it not a bunch, but enough to where teams have had to game prep for it, where you've had to pulling guard, pulling center, pulling somebody, on the edge, pulling them within the box, just various different things to confuse a defensive line of, maybe they think they have a free hitter, but in all reality, somebody's coming off the edge to, clean their clock. So it's going to be a challenge. And like Matt said, getting Monroe back is huge. Hopefully Renato Brown can continue to improve on, what he's been able to do this year.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen there, not just with the talent disparity, but also Louisville's played in one true road environment so far this year, and that game was far from super clean. So how can they communicate? Can you get the blocking schemes right? If you are,
this is going to be a million times harder to communicate than Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a million times. You're at defensive back. I guarantee you they're going to have to rely. I mean, maybe not on defensive back, because I imagine the stadium would be a little bit quieter on offense, but you'll have to rely a lot on your hand signals and stuff. You're going to have to be on your P's and Q's at every point in this game, every single point.
Another question coming into the pod. Y'all said it was too early last time. Who do we think hits the portal, and what are your thoughts? And do you think we'll be successful in the portal with assumed coaching changes? Now, I'm going to preempt this. I still think it's too early to speculate on individual players. I think we all have some hunches of some ideas of who might, but I think that picture will become a lot clearer closer towards the end of the season. Now, one conversation we did have, Matt, you said, and this was after the Colin Lacey news broke, that if Lacey was to not come back, we'd be heading into the offseason with 18 available scholarship spots as things currently stand. Realistically, what do you think that number is actually at by the time we're done with we're starting the first portal window and intentions are declared?
So that number was actually taking into account they get back Colin Lacey, they get back Mason Riger, they get back Jaden Thompson, they get back Lance Robinson. That means you're still going to have 18 spots to fill. And that's under the pretext that no one else enters the portal for Louisville, which we know is not going to happen. There's going to be someone, and you just have to kind of look at the depth chart now and who's seeing the reps decline, who's seeing their reps like take a tick up. I mean, we don't have to say it right now because there's still another month of football to play, so things could change. But I mean, like, you don't have to look very far to kind of like start having some of these hunches of who could. I mean, like I said, that could change, and it's going to be another busy offseason portal shopping for sure. Because I mean, the high school recruiting angle has been kind of, I don't want to say completely punted on, because there's still a couple guys they're trying to, sneak in at the 11th hour. But I mean, it's going to be another portal heavy offseason for Louisville, that's for sure.
So conservative guess, 30 open scholarship spots then at the portal. That's accounting for some players that we're already at 22 and making assumptions on 4 guys coming back. So realistically, that's, if we lose that coin flip on those 4, which kind of feels like a rigged coin flip in some cases as opposed to others, then that's only 7 or 8, 9 more guys hitting the portal. And I don't think that's very unreasonable with the way things go. One thing I'm curious about, though, do we see the big worry that a lot of the fan base had of, our high school players if they're good, they're going to leave us for a bigger team or they're going to get poached? Because that's something that we really haven't seen yet, but we also haven't had that many have an opportunity for that to happen to yet. Like, realistically, on the roster right now of players that have eligibility left that could theoretically be poached by a bigger team, what are we at? Isaac Brown?
Yeah.
Maybe Stan Kwan if a team's really hurting at linebacker, but
I'm not sure. I don't like to speculate on who's going to be the portal stuff just because, I mean, I don't know. Portal talk, in my opinion, until the season's over is pretty
taboo, right?
Pretty dumb.
And I'm not saying those two guys are. I'm just saying, like, who are the players that have performed well enough to catch the eye of a big money program?
Yeah. See, that's the thing is, I don't know. I didn't think Tyler Harrell would have been the guy to catch the eye of an Alabama. You know, It's like you don't ever know what any of these schools are really thinking, particularly the big schools. I mean, Alabama, for all we know, could have been just trying to push one of their better receivers that they already had on roster by bringing Tyler Harrell in for half a season, saying, "Oh, look what we got! This kid can run a 4.3, had 900 yards last year at Louisville. Watch out now! All he's looking for is an opportunity." And it just pushed a kid beyond the bound, like where he needed to go. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to openly speculate who it is. I mean, we certainly have our inclinations as to who, but I mean, going to the back to the numbers part, I would say around 25-ish newcomers for next season is probably 25 portal newcomers is probably a good guess, like somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay. Well, one thing you did tease on when you were talking a little bit earlier, Matt, was like high school recruiting, how a lot of people had reported earlier that, oh yeah, staff should be done. But turns out we still have a couple of lines out in the water. One of the questions, though, was recruits, direction of the offseason. I know we aren't a top pick for top talent, but any strong 3-star or 4 fringe star different makers that still haven't made a decision yet. And I know, Matt, we had talked about this before the episode. There was one that immediately came to mind who we were in his final 4, and he
Carl.
exactly, who had initially taken UCF, but given the direction of the
like him, Matt.
Thanks, Vince.
He's got the rumblies.
But to answer the question, the two that come to mind for me, obviously the first one is Carl Jenkins Jr., who is a wide receiver that Louisville was like neck and neck with UCF over the summer, and obviously he commits to the Knights, but I don't remember when he decommitted. I know it was somewhat recent, but I mean when he reopened his recruitment, Louisville was among a mix of schools who were like in the forefront. And another one that I kind of heard some chatter on after he backed off of his respective commitment to Purdue was LeBron Hill, who was someone who was previously committed to Louisville before flipping to Purdue, and now he backed off of his commitment to Purdue. I haven't heard as much on that front, but I know that there was at least some lines.
I can't stand when kids do that. It's like man, like you don't even know what. It's just so frustrating because recruiting's all fluff and everything, anyways. It's like every single one of these coaches is treating you different right now than they will on campus. So it's like, just pick one that you like and you enjoy and stick with it. Because people like us sound really stupid whenever we talk about you and you end up decommitting and going somewhere else.
I don't want to talk about it. Well, I want to thank everyone who tweeted in for some of those. We appreciate you getting those questions.
There was one more question. Another one from Jacob.
Oh,
oh no.
Another one from Jacob, right, Keith?
Of course, Vince.
Do you have that one teed up?
You know what? I can have it queued up. So now this is a question directed specifically at one Matt McGavic. If the Reds were in this situation, and I assume he's referring to Louisville's situation,
this is
where
deep pipe dream for you, Matt, by the way.
If the Reds were in the situation that the Yankees currently are, would Matt skip the podcast?
Oh, 100%. Like no question. I'd say yeah. Let's record at 5.
As a Reds fan myself, I would not be above just pulling my phone up at a bar on the banks. Like, yeah, we're outside the banks. That's where I'm doing the podcast today, guys. Oh, that's cool.
Where you at, Keith? I'm in the stadium right now. This is crazy.
Ellie De La Cruz just hit a piss missile.
Yeah, well, I'm not even allowed to watch the Yankees game, guys, as I discussed with you all prior to the show. I've had some text messages back and forth. I had a group message with some of my closest friends. I informed them last night that I was texting my dad as well. Like, I didn't watch a single play of the game. I was at jiu-jitsu, and that's when the game started, and I come out of jiu-jitsu and the Yankees are up, and I continue to not watch, and they continue to score more runs. I continue to not watch, and they continue to score more runs. And everyone kind of came to the conclusion that I'm just not allowed to watch anymore. So, unfortunately, I've waited 15 years to see my team in the World Series, and it looks like I have to wait 16 to see it again because, we're up 4-0 right now. I mean, it's only the third inning, and, I haven't watched a play. It's fucking miserable. I'm so disappointed right now. Can we talk about how cool the Anthony Volpe thing was, though, yesterday? I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. You love it.
Hit a home run in the one park where it would have been a home run. Oh,
did you see the picture of him and Jeter though? That's the best thing in the world.
The most overrated shortstop in history.
Oh my god! Oh my god! He was one vote away from being unanimous Hall of Famer. Your best player isn't even allowed in baseball. Nobody even likes him. You don't even like him. I have text message proof of you calling him a piece of shit.
Joey Votto is a wonderful
I'm not.
Yeah,
true. I mean, I'm not about to say no to that. I mean, Pete Rose is a piece of shit. I mean, R.I.P. to him, but I mean, he wasn't a good person.
And if we're sitting over here beating our chest about Joey freaking Votto, are you kidding me?
Hey, that's future Hall of Famer Joey Votto to you.
I do you one Joey Votto and checkmate you with Mark Teixeira. Done.
Oh, if we're talking about illegal players who aren't allowed in the Hall of Fame, you want to bring up Tex, huh? Who's more famous for his time as a Ranger than he is a Yankee. Anyway, back to From the Pink Seats, a University of Louisville football podcast.
From the Pink Seats, a New York Yankee and Cincinnati Red podcast. Very odd combination.
We're getting ready to dive into Clemson week, and before we bring our friend of the program, Eric Mac Lain, in, wanted to ask you all, what are your vibes going into the game? What's the thoughts? What are the expectations? What are the worries? What are the confidences coming into the weekend?
Walking the mile.
Yeah, go
Walking the mile. Walking the mile. Okay, maybe not that far, just because I do think that they have a chance. But I mean, Clemson is rolling right now. Now, granted, they've been feasting on bums ever since getting their teeth kicked in by Georgia. But I mean, they've been taking care of business, which is something Louisville really hasn't done as nearly as handily as Clemson has. Clemson's seen their cupcake. I don't even want to say cupcakes, but seen the teams that they're supposed to beat and lost them, whereas Louisville is still kind of scrapping and clawing to beat some of the teams that they're supposed to beat. So, and then it's going to Death Valley, and then it's going to be a night game, and yeah, and
Clemson's coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here a lot pretty much in the same boat as you, Matt, where, I've been on a team with Lamar Jackson, couldn't beat him. I've been on a team that has been favored against him, couldn't beat him. I've been on plenty of teams that have felt confident against Clemson and couldn't beat them. It's a very tall task. It's taking that next step into the big boy conversation of football where you want to be. You beat Clemson, you can start having those conversations and stuff. And I hope and I pray that we see it this weekend, but my confidence level is about the same if I'm being honest. It's about the same as it is for the Kentucky game, where it's just low, low, low. I can't read backwards, Keith. I can do a lot of things, bro, but I can't read backwards.
I was fulfilling the prophecy you pulled up on the last podcast, or just me holding up a sign saying high school recruiting matters.
Yeah. He asked the fullback to read backwards in the kicked in.
But that is one of the big concerns of mine, just because, again, this is, if you're looking at blue chip ratio, one of the teams that has the amount of talent on the roster to still actually contend for a national championship. And what we've seen at the top of college football, I'm not going to say Clemson couldn't win it. I don't think they have the best shot out of our conference, but I'm not going to say they can't, because they have the talent to do it. So,
I think they have a better shot than Miami. I do. I think they do because of their discipline. I think at the end of the day, Clemson is a much more disciplined football team. They might outmatch Miami in areas of talent in some aspects, and Miami probably outmatches them in more areas on the field. But at the end of the day, I trust Dabo Swinney, who's been there, done that when it comes to winning football games, opposed to Mario Cristobal.
But I prelude with the talent aspect just because we saw it against Miami. Like when you're playing against teams that actually have national championship potential talent, it's just different. Like you can't bully them in the trenches like you can against other teams. You and your guys are open. They're not as open as they are against other tomato can teams. So
yeah, that window that I pointed out on the Sunday show that Chuck threw into, that's going to be like that. Like Tyler's going to have to make a split-second decision opposed to holding it for the second they do. Like it's just different. You cannot make mistakes. It is a very high speed, high level, high paced game of football. And I mean, you have to anticipate stuff too. I mean, this is where your preparation that you're doing all right now comes into play of knowing formations, knowing where people will line up, the down to the most minute detail of where spacing is between the number and the hash of, this receiver loves to run this route right here when he's 2 yards outside the hash. I know that for a fact. He is 90% right here. And boom, play it. It's stuff like that. But, I mean, saying it and executing it is two completely different things.
Or where the first down marker is.
Yeah, that's huge too. I wasn't going to bring that up, but somebody had to this episode.
You know what? When you guys let that play go, because that's one of the few Louisville things I've actually made my peace with, and I still have a grudge against.
Let something go.
I still have a grudge against Storm Johnson and Blake Bortles from 2013. I know how to hold grudges. I've let that one go.
See, I let that one go because I saw Blake Bortles had to endure what he had to at Jacksonville.
Yeah.
God, that offensive line at UCF just turned into a Hall of Fame unit that game. It was infuriating. But so we talked a lot about Clemson's so good. Clemson's so good. What does Louisville do right? And how do they beat Clemson? Because my thoughts are it's either us or Pitt at this point that are going to be the most talented non-Georgia offense and honestly, even with Georgia, like if you're looking at the stars, like the skill position players, I don't think that's a runaway picking them over us. We have the better quarterback.
In my opinion, we have the talent to beat everybody on our schedule. Like we have the talent to do that. And it's just a matter of fact of going out there and not shooting yourselves in the foot and not sitting there blaming, penalties and things like that. You can't put yourself in that types of situation where, Ashton might be getting held and it's blatant and it's out in the middle of the field, but you still have to fucking play pass coverage. You still have to cover people downfield. I mean, you just can't fumbling. Tyler going for that long run against Notre Dame. It's like we can't have you fumbling at the end of that, man. Like that's a huge momentum play for us right there, getting the ball out from, you go any further back, you're getting a safety, man. Like it's just like, man, you have to 4 quarters of football. 4 quarters of complete football is what you have to do to beat this football team.
Yeah, and that's one thing that worries me because the potential's there, and I think that's one of the most infuriating things about this team.
Hands down, Keith, the most frustrating thing is the fact that we, the listeners, everybody knows the talent is there for these guys. We know that Jeff and Coach English, they have the play calls for it. It's just a matter of going and running it.
And actually, while we're on that particular bullet point, I mean, the fans certainly did not like what English had to say in the press conference earlier this week, where he essentially called some of the players both soft and dumb. But what I'm about to say, I'm not saying that English does not bear responsibility in some of the predicament that the defense has. But I mean, just watching them play, I mean, there is maybe a slight inkling of truth to it, just because I mean, you have veterans galore on this team, and a lot of these veterans are people who were here last year, and the scheme retention and execution has taken a step backwards for some reason. And I mean, like, we watched the Miami game. They were fucking bullied the entire time. I mean, 5-yard runs. I mean, that Damian Martinez final touchdown, those should have been a 5-yard gain turned into a 30-yard touchdown. All because they took poor tackling angles. They couldn't bring him down. I mean, Damian Martinez is really good at what he does. But, I mean, when you've got like 3, 4, 5 guys who can make the play, and Martinez is just like, "Whoa, okay, I'm gonna keep going." That's kind of a testament to both physicality and discipline.
Yeah, I mean, you bring that effort against Phil Mafah, he's gonna crush your fucking head.
Like,
this is you would argue between probably either Martinez or Mafah preseason, or Jaden Ott if he were healthy, for best running backs in the conference, and a lot of those votes would go Mafah's way. I always forget about him just because Sleepy Mac ruining another great player.
But Matt, you mentioned Coach English's comments about the guys, and I mean, there is, like you said, there is some truth behind that. And if you go back and watch the Sunday episode and go to the game notes portion, there is multiple plays. The goal line play that I text you guys about in the group message being one of the ones specifically where the wide receiver ran the out route, and we thought it was going to be, we thought TJ Quinn was the guy that messed up. No, it turns out it was a safety coming over top. And it's like stuff like this is just pre-snap communication that you have to be on.
And also,
one second, Keith, the comment that actually stood out the most to me, and this one actually kind of flew under the radar, and it's something that I've kind of mentioned a couple times. Like, he said that Louisville's defense doesn't really have an alpha right now, and it's, when you watch them, it's clear that they don't have like someone who's taking the reins as the communication leader, the guy who is basically helping all around, help set up, like making sure everyone's on the same page. We haven't really seen that this year, whereas last year we did see that a little bit more.
Over communicate when you're on defense. Like, there's nothing that hurts when, like, if I tell Keith cover 3 times,
exactly,
and I say it a 4th time, he's not going to sit there and get offended because I told him a 4th time. It's literally just over communicating and making sure everyone is on the same page. Because, like, as we've talked about with them having a base defense, with them teams going no huddle and tempo and stuff, it's like all about just being on the same page. If we're all running cover 2, we all know how to run cover 2. It shouldn't have any bust. Now, somebody might hit us with the cover 2 beater, but at least we know we're running cover 2 and we can work with that.
Yeah, and now, Vince, I want to get your thoughts on this, because there were a couple of people who were worried about, like, oh wow, he's calling his players dumb and soft.
I've been
and it's like
much worse things about
exactly. Like, honestly, as a former player, I'd be more insulted with how tactfully he put it in the presser. Like, you don't have to cushion it, coach. I'm slow and I'm dumb. Just like, I'm soft. I mean,
the stuff that I've heard out of coaches' mouths, from Coach Beatty to Coach Petrino to everybody, loved to give Coach Satterfield shit, but from Coach Satterfield to, I mean, all those people. I mean, ball coaches, man, they're telling their players it's much worse than that prior to they come to any media member. I bet you the comment Matt had about TJ in the summer, I guarantee you TJ was hearing it way before Matt even asked that question.
Oh yeah.
So no one is more creative than a ball coach coming up with a way to insult someone's ineptitude.
That pass was so easy, Helen Keller could have caught it. It's one of my favorite ones. No name.
A lot of my favorite ones are definitely, and this is a podcast where we're allowed to swear. Fuck. But
yeah,
not ones I would feel comfortable putting on this podcast. So you know what I am comfortable putting on the podcast, though?
What's that?
Some Matt stats.
Now we're talking. All right. So, like, we just got off talking to EMAC, and how I kind of mentioned how heading into the season, I wasn't completely sold that, Clemson's offense was going to be able to take a step forward, because that first year under Garrett Riley, they kind of looked a little disjointed. Cade Klubnik didn't really look too terribly sure of himself. A couple other factors, didn't really have a go-to guy in the receivers to come forward. A whole bunch of factors playing into it. Basically, Clemson, having Clemson's offense take a big step back. Well, that's definitely not the case this time. Just looking at their offensive stats, I mean, their offense overall has an 84.8 grade on Pro Football Focus, which is 11th. Their pass grade is ranked 9th. Their pass blocking grade is ranked 7th. Their receiving grade is ranked 34th, and their rushing grade is ranked 23rd, and their run blocking grade is 58th. So, like, that's several areas where, like, they're ranked in the top 15, top 7. I mean, they have multiple ways they can score. And like I said, it all starts with Cade Klubnik, who's really taken his game to the next level after, like, kind of an imperfect, like, sophomore year last year. Of the 86 quarterbacks with at least 200 dropbacks so far this year, his 90 offensive grade and his 116.3 NFL QBR, they're both 5th. Something that's really interesting, and it kind of speaks to how, like, most of the quarterbacks this season at Louisville has faced are a little bit mobile or know how to navigate the pocket. He is also 11th in pressure to sack rate at 10.2. So basically, only 10.2% of the total pressures he's faced have actually resulted in a sack.
I'm gonna hop in right here for a sec, Mac. Matt, I watched some of his clips, some of their condensed games. Obviously, it's just too much to watch an entire 3-hour football game on my off time. But that is the thing that stood out the most about Cade, is how well he navigates a pocket and, like, throws the ball downfield. Like, he is 100% now looking to, like, take off and run and get yards with his legs. He can, but I mean, the mobility of him throwing on the run out of the pocket is something that I'm extremely nervous about with our DBs in particular. Sorry.
And no, you're fine. And EMAC had mentioned how Cade has gotten a lot better about, Cade making his various reads and not taking like one and run or something like that.
I wish we had that camera angle, by the way. God.
Oh, God, me too. And anyways, back on track. So, and something like peeling back some of the, deeper stats on Cade Klubnik, he is very good at, not only throwing the ball, but throwing the ball downfield. He's not like a slot merchant or like a screen merchant who, like, relies on all those, yards after catch to really make his hay. I mean, he can sling it deep. I mean, on deep passes, which are passes that go 20 yards beyond the line of scrimmage or more, he's 17 of 34, which is an even 50% for 652 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 picks. And comes out to a 92.2 offensive grade. And then you scale it back a little bit to throws that are kind of more intermediate. So throws that go at least 10 to 19 yards past the line of scrimmage. He's 30 of 46, which is 65.2% completion percentage for 516 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he is very good at finding, the open guy downfield. And something that's arguably the most concerning is that it doesn't matter if he's kept clean, if he's under pressure, if he's being blitzed, if he's not being blitzed, he's still very damn good at what he does. I mean, just listen to these offensive grades. So when he's kept clean, has an offensive grade of 88.1. Pretty good. When he's under pressure, offensive grade of 83.8. Still pretty good. When he's not blitzed, his offensive grade is 88.3. When he is blitzed, it's still an 83.4 grade. And going back to his 83.8 offensive grade when under pressure, out of the 86 quarterbacks with 200 dropbacks, guess where that ranks? First.
Yeah. I was going to say, somebody's going to be tearing that shit up. I feel like I would know about it.
It's a good thing Louisville doesn't struggle with pressuring but not bringing down elusive quarterbacks.
Yeah, that'd be a shame.
Yeah. And yeah, so he is. I mean, there's some other weapons on that Clemson offense because obviously, Phil Maffa, Brian Wesco, Jake Brenningstool, Antonio Williams. But I mean, like, Cade is the straw that stirs the drink. Like, it all starts with how efficient he is. And then going to the other side of the ball, I mean, like we've mentioned, Clemson's defense is still very good. It's very talented. It's still efficient. But, I mean, you look at some of the advanced stats and how we kind of mentioned it with EMAC, like, they have been a little bit, maybe not super disappointing, but they have taken a step back. I mean, Their overall defensive grade is 57th overall. Their run defense is 72nd. Their tackle grade is 47th. Pass rush is 63rd, and their coverage grade is 34th. So about middle of the road, honestly, in terms of Power Fives conferences goes. And let me add some additional context to like how good Clemson's defense has been ever since PFF started tracking everything. 2014, 94.3, which is second. 2015, 91.4, ninth. 2016, 92, which was tied for sixth. 2017, 94.1, which was sixth. 2018,
oh, we don't have to talk about that year. We don't have to talk about that year. Skip.
Which was tied for first. 2019, which was a 92, eighth. 2020, 88.6, which was 13th. 2021, 86.3, which was 15th. 2022, 91.2, which was 13th. Last season, 93.8, which was second. So far this year, their defensive grade is 83.7, which is 55th. So a massive drop-off from what Clemson has statistically been. But like we have discussed, what was mentioned with EMAC, and I asked him about it, a lot of it has been because Clemson's offense has been so good and just blown the absolute doors off of teams, and that they've basically just emptied the bench deep into like the third quarter and well into the fourth, like in almost every game they have played since the Georgia game. I mean, here's some context. Against App State, they led as much as 56-10 before eventually winning 66-20. NC State, 59-14 before eventually winning 59-35. Stanford, they were up 40-7 at one point. FSU, their biggest lead was 23-7 before they pulled away with a 29-13 win, a little bit different. Wake Forest, they led them 42-14 through the third quarter. And then Virginia, before their bye week, they led as much as 38-10 before eventually winning 48-31. So they're taking their foot off the gas, like they're taking their boot off the throat, whatever euphemism you want to use here. I mean, they're calling off the dogs in the fourth quarter because they're just beating the hell out of these teams so much. And so there kind of leaves slightly misguided stats, but I mean, going at a player-by-player basis, of the 21 players with at least 100 defensive snaps, 6 of them have a defensive grade that's under 60, which is average. 10 of them have a grade that's under 65, which was like a tick below average. So there are some guys on Clemson's defense that are definitely not performing up to par. But then on the flip side of that, there's also 7 guys who have a 74 defensive grade or higher. So, the typical guys we come to expect from Clemson. And of course, the guy who performs the best this season so far is cornerback Avion Terrell, who is the younger brother, I believe, of AJ Terrell with the Falcons. Of the 455 defenders in the FBS with at least 200 coverage snaps, his 85.1 coverage grade is 28th, and his 45.5% of targets caught is 35th. So like he's in like the top 25 percentile, I'm sure. I don't have the exact math on that one for me, but he's one of the more elite corners in the ACC and the FBS at large. So like Emac said, I wouldn't be shocked if, Terrell shadows Ja'Cory Brooks almost the entire time, because, I mean, Ja'Cory Brooks is the unquestioned wide receiver 1 right now, and Avion Terrell is the unquestioned CB1 for Clemson.
Hopefully a guy like Amari Huggins-Bruce can find his way into a spot where he can get open in that slot and kind of relieve some of that pressure off Brooks. And even Mark Redmond and Nate Kariski, like tight end position, hopefully we can utilize that. I mean, the defense is forever going to scare me just because of how much of a nightmare it was to prep for that when I was in school and working for Satterfield and those guys. I mean, that stuff is filthy that they bring. And I know it's a different D coordinator and everything, but they still, judging by the conversation we had with EMAC and, Matt reading off a bunch of their PFF stats and everything, I mean, it's still the Clemson defense that you have schematically to worry about. So it makes me nervous. I'm never going to be confident against this football team. I'm just never going to be ever. And it just kind of sucks that I always feel like an underdog. Like I just want to beat him, man. I just want to beat him. I just want to do it so bad.
So Vince,
like,
that's the one point I'm going to have to disagree with you on, though. I always want to feel like an underdog with our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. I hate you so much. Think Quinshawn Judkins will go higher than 0.5 rushing touchdowns this weekend? Think Ashton Jeanty will get lower than 184.5 rushing yards?
Freddie Freeman will hit lower than 1 home run in the next World Series game.
Cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all football season long. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. For NFL fans, one fun game that you won't find anywhere else is Red Zone Rush. Men of this day and age are very familiar with the act of swiping either right or left. Just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping right for yes and left for no. Simple as that. Plus, your entry will be automatically boosted, and you'll get a 51% profit boost when you play. Join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog with their champs game. You could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Some of my picks for the weekend is Tyler Shuck higher than 254.5 passing yards, Ja'Cory Brooks higher than 82.5 receiving yards, and Cade Klubnik, I got a pick for you too, pal, lower than 0.5 interceptions. So download the app today and use code PINKSEATS when you sign up to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that's promo code PINKSEATS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. So higher or lower, you make the call on Underdog. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Thanks, Underdog Fantasy. And while we're on the topic, what'd you have, Vince?
I checked today to see. I checked Underdog to see where we're at with the Freddie Freeman home run situation to see if I could bet the under on that because Garrett Cole was throwing today and couldn't find it anywhere. It was just trying to raise it. So I was Underdog. We got some beef. It looks like you're against the Yankees.
No beef for the friends of our program coming from over here. Should I change my name to Corporate Shill Keith? But no,
yes,
get in there.
Yes.
Get in
they
there.
Had some fun UFC stuff on there though, bro. I was checking it out over the weekend. Where they had some very, very interesting stuff on there where just the capability of being able to, do I think this round is going to go higher than this, lower than this is one of the things that I would really like that you can't really do. Do I think the fight's going to go this as a whole? You can't really do a lot of this stuff on other.
If you're someone who likes to pick the player projections with regards to specific stats, I cannot this isn't even part of the ad read anymore. This is just me, producer Keith, saying I'm having a blast playing on there. And one of the cool features they have, again, not part of the ad read, is there is a flex payout option if you're putting together longer strings of multiple selections, like 6, 7, 8 picks, where if you miss by 1 or 2 picks, you can still receive some payout. As opposed
I did that
to
this past weekend with UFC, and I ended up making my money back at least. Which at the end of the day is about all you can ask for, and whenever you're doing that stuff.
Exactly. So it's a place where you can really have fun. You know where else we have fun? Every time our friend Eric Mac Lain joins the program.
Aaron Judge just robbed Freddie Freeman as we speak.
Take 3 of me trying to get him introduced. So we're going to hop into an interview now with friend of the podcast, Eric Mac Lain. We'll see you on the other side. And joining us now, longtime friend of the program, all around great dude. You know him from ACC Network. You know him from ESPN. You know him from the Gramlich and Mac Lain podcast. And you know him from whatever corner of the internet you find him on. It's friend of the show, Eric Mac Lain. Eric, how are you doing?
What's up, boys? What's up? I thought it was very interesting that y'all asked me to be on this week of all the weeks. Didn't know why. Is there some little
Keith pulled that one?
Is there
Keith pulled that one out of his ass. I don't know where he pulled this interview out of.
Just a hunch, yeah.
Well, you're such a national ACC personality. We thought, maybe you might be a little informed about this little podunk school in South Carolina that we're getting ready to go play, and figured you might be able to get us up to speed on them.
I can help you out. I gotta say, I was gonna come in super hot and just say some crazy stuff, but I didn't even want to do it. So let me just hold on here. Golly, I gotta represent this.
Yeah!
Sure lives.
That's
I'm
good.
with you guys. That's gonna stay up behind me, but I'm with you guys. Come on, it's one of my favorites.
You can throw an L up too. We won't clip it, I swear.
So, one major question, and it's one of the big things that's been going around the Louisville media space, and it's something that we really want to see because, as you know, Louisville has yet to climb that mountain, has yet to overcome Clemson. So if Louisville does pull off the upset this weekend, are you all still going to meet at the Paw?
This is great. This is very educational. It doesn't matter if we beat a 1-win Florida State team, a 5-win Louisville team, an FCS team, or if we lose to any of those teams. They're coming on the field. We're meeting at the Paw. It's what we do every single week. And honestly, it is to the point because, social media is what it is. It is actually hard to figure out, are people being honest when they say, here we go, Clemson Storm, or are they joking? Are they being trolls? Or are they leaning into it? I really don't even know anymore. I don't know. So anytime I see it, I just think they're being silly or being funny. But yeah, they're coming on the field no matter what. So just get ready, Louisville. Here they come.
It's definitely the troll job. So you guys dropped Georgia first week of the season and have been on a roll ever since then. What are the vibes? What's the mood in Clemson right now?
Yeah, it's high. I mean, it's super high, man. The way this offense has been playing is it's fun, and it's one of those things too, going into the offseason and specifically the preseason, just looking at this team and thinking, okay, defense is probably going to be really good, which actually they've been a little disappointing. We thought they were going to be really, really good, probably win a bunch of games because of them. How serviceable can Cade become? Can he just not give the ball away? I think that was kind of everybody's, can we get there? And he's blown the doors off of that. I mean, this guy is playing out of his mind. And I think you're seeing just the natural growth. I mean, we remember what it's like growing up and, at whatever level you play at, once you get older and you become a veteran, you learn more, more, you can do more physically. And so that's where he is, man. And then just the ownership of, I'm sure the offseason, digging into the playbook, digging into the film room, understanding defenses, understanding tendencies. I mean, you see it in his progression. One of my favorite things to do when I'm watching tape, if you have it, if there's the reverse angle where you can see the quarterback's eyes and I can see him going 1, 2, 3, run or check down or whatever he's doing. I love to be able to see those progressions. And last year, a lot of times it was this. It was a lot of panic. It was a lot of scrambling and not really knowing, and not even running scrambling, just in his mind, not really knowing what to do. And that's not the case this year. This dude is sharp and he knows where to go with the football. And I think that's been a big key of the success. The other piece, which Eddie Royal's been beating me over the head with, the receivers are playing pretty freaking good too. I mean, those guys have really stepped up. But it always goes back to me. You got to have a guy who can get them the ball. You can be great as you want to be, but if you don't have a QB that can get it to you, it doesn't really matter. But I do have to give those guys credit. Phil Maffa's been Phil Maffa. I mean, just a freak. And then, this offensive line's really turned it up too. So
that's what I was going to say. Same with the offensive line. Do you think it's been more of a offensive line playing better than it was last year? Or do you think it's Cade excelling into this playbook and spending more time in the offseason and spring, getting to know his guys at the receiver position and gaining chemistry that way?
I don't I don't want to discredit any group. I do think all groups are better and maybe marginally better. But I think the gap of how Cade has improved is astonishing. Like he's so much better, so much more confident. And that's just, and again, maybe I'm just a, QB homer, QB protector, but it matters, dude. I've seen bad QBs play long enough. I know what the difference is. I know what it looks like. And he is drastically improved.
So going, I was about to ask that, Keith. On the other side of the ball, you mentioned close to the top of the show how the defense has been kind of disappointing. I mean, you look at some of the baseline stats, like scoring, total defense, and it looks like the defense has, in that regard, taken a step back. But I mean, you look at some of these games, and Clemson, since ACC play, is basically just beating the doors off of people, and then by the time the fourth quarter starts, you're putting the second stringers in. So of course that impacts it. So obviously you watch a lot more Clemson than we do and have a different perspective. But has Clemson's defense really taken a step back, or is just a product of Clemson just beating people's asses so badly that they have to they dump in the second stringers?
Yeah, I'm glad that you kind of said it that way, because there's a ton of truth to that. I mean, you have an NC State team that Clemson's winning 59-10. And bam, here comes 21 points in the fourth quarter against walk-ons. You've got a Virginia team that's getting the doors blown off them. Boom, 21 points in the fourth quarter. And you're just like, this isn't what it's supposed to look like. Why does this win feel so bad all of a sudden? And that's the case with a lot of these teams, man, where you have that kind of late push. And that's a lot of points. I mean, 21 in the fourth, that's a ton, to give up. And so, it's one of those things, and I was frustrated in it, and really kind of frustrated after the Virginia win, as dominant as it was, because of those points given up, and you had to dig a little bit deeper. Obviously, you watch the film, but there's numbers that matter, and there's things that matter kind of within all of it. When Barrett Carter, Avion Terrell are on the field at the same time, as well as with 11 there, and the things that he's going to bring to the table. That defense is another level. It's in a different stratosphere. And, you just see the things that they're able to do. You see the things that they are able to accomplish just strictly from a, statistical point, but also just from a number standpoint. It's incredible. It goes from 4 yards a rush to 10. It's incredible, the difference there. So I think that just kind of shows you, the difference when the starters are not in. There's a little bit of a depth concern, and it's just those guys are good, right? Peter Woods is really good, Barrett Carter is really good, Avion Terrell is really good. I mean, those are all potential, top 3 round draft picks that I'm mentioning. Maybe a couple of them first rounders. When they go out, there's a difference. And so the interesting thing is if Clemson is in a really meaningful, all the way to the end type of game moving forward, since the Georgia game, obviously, what will it look like? What will that defense look like?
So where do you think this crop of, first stringers and starters ranks up with some of these other Clemson defenses we've seen in the past? Is it kind of on par with what we've seen during the Swinney era, or is it truly a teeny bit of a step back?
It's the scheme. Yeah. That scheme I remember always having to prep for that, either being on a scout team or with Satterfield, and then, oh my God, pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's tough. I would say it's probably just an ounce behind, just strictly because you've probably got your best defensive player playing out of position. You got Peter Woods having to play defensive end instead of playing 3 technique. I mean, imagine that dude with the explosive nature in there with guards and centers, and being able to move the way that he does, and having a true threat at the defensive end position. And Clemson's just really shallow right there. At that position, and it falls off quickly. You got some young guys that I think will be good one day, but it's just, they're not quite ready now to be, every down kind of starting type of guys. So for that, and with that in mind, that kind of changes a lot on the front. You're not seeing a ton of, production like you normally do from that defensive line in regards to tackles for loss, sacks, things of that nature. And now you got to be a little more schematic. And honestly, I want to see a little more aggression. I want to see, more, sacks and safety blitzes and whatever it is, whatever you have to do to get home, you got to start cranking that up, because the later we get in the season, clearly competition in quarterback play is going to start cranking up with starting with Louisville, the run that Clemson's about to go against, but then just the postseason and a potential playoff berth and ACC championship. I mean, it's going to get in a hurry really, really good. And so you have to be able to combat that.
If only there was a means for you to just quickly acquire a player to address some depth issues on your roster.
Maybe in mid-season, I'd be cool with that.
That'd be wild.
You led me into the next question I actually wanted to ask, which was you got rid, and this is, I believe, Clemson's last bye week, correct? That you just are coming off of. So 4 out of your last 5 games are going to be against some pretty challenging opponents with Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, and Citadel. So in South Carolina. So is there any worry at all of, hey, let's try to get some South Carolina prep in this week on the bye week? Or is it strictly all business 1 week at a time and all the other coach speak that we hear over and over and over?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, I mean, South Carolina doesn't do anything extraordinary. They just have a really good defense, have a really good defensive line. The benefit, Clemson goes against that every day. So I don't think if it was like a Georgia Tech type of thing where it's a very different, back in the day, a very different type of offense or something really unique, maybe. But you can get creative with buys. There's certainly things, and I'll say the greatest things with coaches, good coaches, is they can sneak it in, right? Like we can have a drill or we can have something that maybe we just think, hey, okay, we're just doing this. But really, they want that little nugget of, hey, yeah, remember this in 4 weeks. Remember this in whenever that is. But, yeah, nothing to my mind. I mean, obviously, you have really good competition. I think it is. I get the Citadel thing. That's just a state mandate there. But it is one of those things where you've got some dogs coming up, and it's going to be really fun to watch and to see truly how good this team is.
You mentioned that defense and the scheme and the safety blitz in particular. You sent me back to like flashbacks there with Coach Venables. He used to send a nasty one up the middle. So that's what I was going to ask. How does this defense compare to his, better defenses that he had against Clemson? Which, by the way, one of my favorite coaches ever. The fact that he would be out there scout teaming it up. Yeah.
That's right. Hey, maybe be back soon. Who knows? We'll see. People aren't very patient anymore. No, I think, it's tough to compare, without having the full body of work. Because again, as we just mentioned, you look at the production and it's not even close to some of those top defenses. Right. I mean, he had, number 1 defenses in the country, I think 3 or 4 times while he was here at Clemson in regards to total offense given or total defense, points scored, things of that nature. Led the country in sacks for like a 5-year run there. It was like us, Pitt, and Alabama, like going back and forth who wanted to be the leader this week. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's different, man. It really is. And I think before I don't think we can really justify it without having the full body of work. Because right now it's not. I mean, it's not necessarily comparable production-wise.
So we've kind of talked about some of the superstars that Clemson have. Obviously, K-Club, McPhilmaffa on defense, Peter Woods, Barrett Carter, Wade Wood-Ass. Who are some of the guys you consider like X factors or like the players to know that maybe doesn't get enough nationally or locally?
Yeah, probably a harder thing just because they are covered so well. But I think when you look at the tight end position, I mean, I think Brenningstool is one of the best in the country at what he does tight end wise. I mean, he is a fantastic receiver, great after the catch, like the things that he can do with the football, big target, great catch radius, and not afraid to block. I'm not saying he's necessarily a guy on 3rd and 1 we want in there, pitching out a defensive end, but he can block well and do the things that he needs to do. Even the whole tight end room in general. I mean, those guys have really played well. You look at Josh Sapp, number 5, that's kind of gone back and forth between the 2nd and 3rd team guy. Pat Henry had like a crazy game last week against Virginia, exploded, had a couple of touchdowns. So that whole unit, I mean, has been really fun to watch. I look at the receiving core and, it's been really fun just to see what, these young guys can do. And like TJ Moore has really turned it on of late. And it was interesting to me because coming into fall camp, everything that I'd heard from a handful of different people on and off, the staff there was TJ Moore's going to be the guy. Like, he's ready now. He's ready to go. Then at the end of camp, you're like, nah, Brian Westco's the guy. Like, this dude's reminding us of Sammy Watkins, all these different – and I'm just like, whoa. This is crazy. And they both have had really good flashes. And so it's good to kind of see that, Clemson, not that they missed because they've had back-to-back freshman All-American wide receivers, but they didn't feel like they had these two guys, like just difference makers immediately. And with that, probably didn't have the supporting cast as these two guys do. So those are kind of offensive, guys that I've really been impressed with. DeMonte Capehart is quietly like getting himself drafted in the first 3 rounds as well. I mean, this guy has been a monster. He was a former 5-star, huge dude, and injury, couldn't get on the field, like superstars in front of him type deal. And now it's been his turn, his show. And he has been good, man. I mean, really fun, almost unblockable at times. I mean, I remember the Notre Dame game last year, like he's picking dudes up and taking them backwards. And even against Georgia, he had a very good showing, which we knew at that time before injuries, that was maybe the best offensive line in the country that they were going against. So those two guys, and then maybe last one, because I'm such a homer, I could just rattle off the whole roster. Wade Wood has, I think, next year, I mean, we're talking about one of the best linebackers in the country. I mean, he is a freak, really good sideline to sideline guy, great ball skills, will take it away from you in a heartbeat, but also like a thumper. He is a great combination. He's a little bit bigger, Isaiah Simmons, probably not as quite athletic. I mean, he was so freaky, more of a safety playing linebacker. This guy's more of a true linebacker.
Okay. So coming into this matchup, it's a 2-part question. First off, what are Clemson's biggest areas of confidence going into the matchup? And then where are some of the concerns getting ready to gear up to play this Louisville team?
Yeah, I think, it's really probably both sides of the ball. I think the offense is feeling good right now, no matter who they play. I mean, they have answers. They can run it. They can pass it. They can take their time. They can kill you in one play, like whatever they want to do. And, it was interesting enough coming into this year, man, it was probably around July, because you start doing all your prep, you're getting excited. And, I'm just kind of looking at it like, I don't know what Louisville's going to be this year. I think I'm passing on those guys. And then I start watching the defense. I'm like, these guys might be really good. Like there's some pieces, and a lot like Clemson, I've been really disappointed, with the defense that I've had, the effort. And of course I know guys are getting hurt and some are back, some are not. But just guys that I thought were going to have massive, big years aren't really producing, aren't really getting a shot. And so I don't know. I feel like Clemson feels pretty good, of what they can do on that side of the ball and the things that they're going to be able to, accomplish. And then you look at the defensive side and what Clemson's going to be going against. I mean, I think this is by far the most explosive offense, that they've seen. I mean, I cannot wait to see the matchup of Brooks and Terrell. I mean, all day. I hope he just follows them. I mean, that's network TV, right? Like that's pay-per-view. Let's go. Seeing that heavyweight matchup. Weirdly enough, there was a time where Clemson wasn't doing great against the run. And, I probably would have thought if that was still the case, Isaac Brown was going to have a field day, but they've tightened it up a little bit there. So I'm interested to see how does Louisville want to attack them, because they're very balanced. I mean, they can do, what they want offensively. It's just what is Clemson going to either try to dictate, or what does Louisville and Coach Braum just try to force the issue, whether that's on the ground or through the air. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be a great matchup to watch.
For you guys, what do you think? What do y'all have to do in order to win the football game? That's the last question for me. It's all about winning the football game. What do y'all have to do at the end of the day?
Yeah. What has really been the trend for Clemson is, taking care of the football. I mean, I think that's one of the massive differences from last year. It's funny. We were at Duke last week watching SMU versus Duke, and I was like having PTSD of last year of what Clemson was doing there. Like they just kept turning the ball over. And now SMU's defense did a good job because they didn't allow them to score. And Clemson, I mean, I blinked and it was 28-0. And you're just like, what is happening? And so, I kind of got those vibes. And so they have been dramatically better there. And then, Cade just taking what the defense gives them. I think he's been so good this year at identifying that, not really forcing it. He had that one just like bonkers pick the last time they played against Virginia that I don't know. He must have had dirt in his eye or something, because there's 3 guys covering us. It was one of the worst plays I've ever seen. But outside of that, he's been really good with the football. So that's what it comes down to me, man. If Clemson protects the ball, I think they kind of do their thing.
So, EMAC, last question for me. I personally have never been to Clemson or Death Valley.
Are you coming?
I'm fixing that this weekend. So, being in the area, trust your judgment on this one. I need your barbecue Rex or any restaurant Rex. Like, let me hear. What are the spots?
When are we getting in? I need to know my full timeline here.
So I am leaving Friday. Should be getting there like midday Friday, late Friday. It depends on how many stops we have to make.
We got time. This is great. This is great news. Okay. You got to go to Smoking Pig Friday night. You got to go there. It is unbelievable. And honestly, I could tell you what to order, but everything's good. So if you have like something you like, get it. It'll be great. But the brisket's incredible. The sweet potato crunch, incredible. Fried okra. But like I said, everything is good. You will absolutely love it. Then Saturday, lunchtime, you got to hit up Esso Club right there. Absolute staple. Get your drinking in, get your food in. I think it's maybe meet and 3 on weekends. I'm a little busy on Saturdays, so forgive me. But I think it's meet and 3. Super solid place. I'll send you some breakfast stuff too. There's a couple of different things that you can go. Where are you staying? That matters too. Where are you staying?
So it's going to be an Airbnb close to downtown. I can't remember the exact
in Clemson
location. Yeah, I can't remember the exact location off the top of my head because I'm splitting it with someone. But yeah,
dude,
it's going to be pretty close.
That is awesome. That is all right. You're going to have some good options. I'll send you all that too. My favorite is a place called Potbelly Deli. Little spot. If you go early, nobody will be there. So good. So good. I'll send you some stuff.
I'm starving now.
I'm so happy you're going. That's awesome. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, especially
maybe not for a long time for you, but it's going to be fun.
Oh, there he is.
Well, I hope it's the opposite because on Saturday it's also my birthday. So.
Oh wow!
Happy birthday! Happy birthday! No, you'll love it. I'll tell you what. The tailgating scene too. Like everybody, wear all your Louisville stuff. Be happy. Everyone's going to be really welcoming. I'll try to find some spots you can go to, but everybody will love to see it. Everybody. I think Clemson fans like Louisville fans a lot. I think they have a good time whenever they're together.
Yeah, it's always been super cordial around here.
I had a good time with the group that was behind me the last time y'all were in town. Yeah, we had a great time.
We know how to party. We know how to party. Bring your brown water, and it'll be just fine.
Exactly. Oh, you don't have to worry about that.
All right. Well, we're getting ready to roll into our picks segment that we do throughout the course of the season. So Matt currently really giving us a thumping. So Eric, I want to at least ask before the line we're using right now, everything we're seeing is at about 11.5. I assume you're laying the points and taking the Tigers.
Well, I'm looking at ESPN bet and it's 10.5. But yeah, I'll stay there. I'll stay. I mean, I think it's a 2-touchdown game. I think Clemson has to play the whole game though. I don't think you're seeing, the third string guys. I think the defense is going to have to be out there and play. But is it a late touchdown? Is it something of that nature? But, I think Clemson covers. But I think it's a good game. And I think this is a start, for the Tigers. Again, I know y'all don't want to hear this, but I think this is kind of they're different in November. I mean, this is a different team, historically. I think they have like 4 losses in Dabo Swinney's career in November. So it's when they turn it up.
All right. Well, fingers crossed the Cards maybe can make it 5. You can plug your ears for that part.
I'll let y'all cover, but I ain't winning no game. I don't know about that.
Well, Eric, I want to just offer a huge thanks again for coming on. Let the audience know where they can find you with everything you're doing.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Eric Mac Lain, check it out. YouTube has been kind of our biggest thing right now. And, of course, SiriusXM over on Channel 84. You can hear it there as well. But I appreciate you guys always. Big fan. As you know, day one, back when it was the pink seats. That's when I played there. It was pink seats. And this is still one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite shirts. I always appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, Eric, thank you again for coming on, and look forward to the next time we see you. Huge thanks again to Eric Mac Lain for hopping on the pod with us. Go and find him at all the places he listed. We'll throw some links in the description. Big friend of the program, always been there for us. Y'all go be there for him too. And now, to cap off the show, it's time to make some picks. Matt, the lone victor last week. We talked about it a little bit with Eric. Line currently Clemson minus 11.5. Jacob, who's currently 4-4 on the season, got his official text pick in, and he really had a tough struggle between his heart and the data. And eventually he let his heart win, and he took Louisville plus 11.5.
I don't know, man. I don't know where I stand with this either. I'm sitting here having heart and data slap me in the face. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like this spread. It's really big. But I can see an avenue to where Louisville gets like a backdoor cover type situation. Like points are absolutely going to get scored just because, I mean, Clemson's defense, it might not be like, number one type defense like we've seen in Clemson's past, but it's still a really good defense. And then on the other side, I was the biggest doubter of Cade Klubnik for the longest time, and they look pretty damn good right now. And with the way that Louisville's defense has played, I mean, they were able to, get something going at Boston College, but it's still, that's the outlier to the exception to the rule right now. I mean, Louisville's defense still hasn't played super, super great, but I mean, Brom typically does get up for big games. I'm not going to pick Louisville to win, but I do think that they cover. That 11.5 is super big. I could see it happening, but I don't think it will.
Do I have to? I don't know where I stand, man. I'm going to take the cards. I'll go with the cards.
Vince, just diving in head first. I was going to offer to make my pick first to give you some time to decide.
Fullbacks, we don't think about much. That's why they just tell us to go forward. So go forward with it. I'm going with the cards.
So the biggest concerns for me, how many stops are we realistically going to get on the defensive side of the ball? Because that Clemson offense has been humming, and the defense hasn't settled any of the concerns I had. Like, I wasn't wowed by that Boston College performance. Even in the second half when we were doing what we were supposed to do, that was what we were supposed to do the whole time. Like, that's what the game should have looked like, and you couldn't do that for a half. So that's the biggest skeptical part I am. And because of that, I'm taking Clemson and I'm giving up the points. And just consider me a very salty individual if it's out of hand the whole way and we get a backdoor cover. So I will not be happy if we backdoor cover. I'll be thrilled if we just outright keep it close the whole time and I never think I have a shot of winning the bet portion, or I'll be outright thrilled. Let's just go get the win. That'd be great.
Yeah, this is a big, with you and I being in last right now, this is a huge split right here.
Right? I thought about taking the coward's way out and just tailing you just so we could keep it tied for the rest of the year, but no, I will be the dissenter.
Some would say that's coward's way out, or you being a good friend because you don't want to see me get hurt. But here we are. Clearly not a good friend.
No, I'm a terrible friend and an even worse fan, apparently.
Yeah, right.
So hop into those comments and tell me all about how bad of a fan I am. But while you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Take that shillelagh you have in the closet and beat that like button like it owes you rent money. And on behalf of Jacob Lane, who was not able to join us, on behalf of Eric Mac Lain taking time out to join us, and on behalf of Vince Lococo and Matt McGavic, I'm producer Keith. This has been another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast, and as always, go Cards.